Elizabeth Fukai, and I serve as Assistant Director of the Women's Philanthropy Board. And as many of you know, WPB is an educational outreach and fundraising arm of the College of Human Sciences at Auburn University. And we provide educational programs to the public on a wide range of topics, as well as offering mentoring initiatives within Auburn University and fundraising for the College of Human Sciences. We have several more virtual programs coming up this year, including the first ever world's largest virtual tailgate for tailgating this year. That's coming up in just a few days. We're delighted to have with us for today's program, Cindi Malinick, the Director and Chief Curator for the Jule Collins Smith Museum of Fine Art here at Auburn University. Cindi is a successful senior executive and cultural administrator at museums, historic sites, educational institutions, and nonprofit corporations from across the nation. Her work has garnered awards from the American Alliance of Museums and support from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Prior to her current role, Cindi served as the Vice President of Cultural Assets at Girl Scouts of the USA in Manhattan and Washington, D.C., and as Deputy Chief of Staff to the Senior Vice President of Historic Sites at the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Cindi is a graduate of the College of William and Mary and holds a master's in public history from the University of San Diego. Cindi, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? I'm so happy to see everyone. And I'm at the museum, which is why I have on my mask, but I'm going to take it off. I'm modeling good behavior, best practices, right? But I've got a staff member that's kind of behind the screen here that's helping, but he's far enough away that we're safe. But just wanted to start out by saying that we're completely aligned, of course, with the university as being part of the university, and want to keep us all as safe as we can. So, but I can take the mask off now so you can see my face and you can hear me a little better. But thank you so much for having me, and it's my pleasure to be here and share about the museum and answer questions when we're done. And also just say that, you know, we love to serve as a place to mentor ourselves. And so I look forward to maybe some possible collaborations in the future as we kind of think about those things, especially for women, right? So, yeah. Well, if you're ready, because I want to be sure to be able to get through the presentation and then have enough time for questions at the end, I'm ready to dive in and share a little bit about the museum and what we've been up to the last few months. Great. So we're ready, Mike? Okay, so just want to point out quickly for those of you that I hope all of you that are with us today have been to the museum, but if you haven't, I hope that you come by. This is our beautiful large grand gallery, and I'll just say that this is, we can talk more about this in a minute, but these are students that came at the end of September, and you can see that they also are physically distanced and have masks on. And one of the things that why we're here is to be of service and part of the intellectual life of the university. And so faculty and staff and students are always, you know, one of our prime reasons for being. And so when faculty members called and said, how are we going to be able to see the art? Because we would often be able to take students down into the vault, but we just can't because of the virus. What we pivoted and have prototyped and have been able to bring pieces up and have them spread apart. So it was a beautiful day, truly, to see students here after being closed for so long. And I'll just say that, you know, like any institution, we frame our work around values and guiding principles. And of course, all of these are aligned with the university. And the team has been going through, we've been working on a strategic plan and ensuring that we really have thought carefully about our values and why we do what we do. It grounds everything that we do. And the values you can see are here. And I can just quickly mention, some of the imagery that you're seeing that illustrate these values. The inquiry and experimentation certainly is part of a university. We're here for research, and inquiry and experimentation and prototyping. And this is a before picture. You'll see afterwards, but this is one of our galleries and the students that were working on a show, an art history class, and all the pieces that were pulled from the vault and just hung up on the wall so they could start to think about them as they were pulling together the exhibition. The collaborations and partnerships, we're always eager, whether it's the Women's Philanthropy Board or other units and departments on campus, to think about how all of our work intersects. And for those of you that are, again, familiar with the museum, we have a small lake in front of the museum, and it suffers, I guess I should use, from an algae bloom every fall and every spring. And so we worked with fisheries, and they conducted some experiments this summer to help us try to sort through what our options might be. So some people thought it was a yet another floating sculpture out in the lake because it was such an interesting structure. But so that was a fun partnership and just one of many. Of course, engagement and learning. Not only do we as a staff always have something to learn, and we learn from our visitors, whether they're in elementary school or up through students, but also we look forward to engaging with people and presenting stories and exhibitions that would be of interest or promote dialogue or just get you to think of things in new ways. That's the beauty of visual arts, is that everyone can take away from it what they will. So that's another guiding principle for us. Certainly equity and inclusion, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later on, but we always want to think about access to the building, to the grounds, to the collection, to the diversity of the collection, of our staff, of our advisory board, because we are certainly, a multicultural population in this country, and we are as a faculty and as students and staff. And so it's so important to us to always keep those principles in mind. And then last but not least is just stewardship and growth. And we are, the staff here are the stewards of a very large building, of extensive grounds, and a collection that exceeds 2,500 pieces. And so there's a lot to keep up with. There's a lot to think about in terms of safety, conservation, again, how we engage the public through these pieces, and then how do we grow? How do we grow the collection? How do we grow our audiences, our endowments, all of those things? So these are our values and principles, and we don't do anything without thinking about these to ensure that we're checking all these boxes and walk the walk every day. I love alliteration. For those people that know me, I love alliteration, and we have incorporated that into our mission and vision, and you can read it here. But we think about this place is for everyone to explore, experience, and engage, and we really mean that. It is for everyone within the four walls, and like what we're doing now virtually. And for those of you that like to get down in the weeds around planning, we're in the midst of strategic planning here, and it's a little bit of a happy coincidence, but we're working on a 3-year plan. And in 3 years, for those of you that have lived in Auburn since 2003, we're coming up on our 20th anniversary. And so it's not a moment too soon for us to think about how we are going to celebrate that anniversary, keeping in mind a couple of things. One is obviously, right, we're all living through an incredibly challenging time in this country, certainly around the pandemic. We certainly all hope that we're going to come through this on the other side. Things will be different when we get to the other side, and so how is that going to affect us? And then again, Another shift for us is they truly are tectonic shifts that are underway in the cultural field as museums think about a host of issues, everything from kind of nuts and bolts like membership. Do we have membership anymore? Because our demographics are changing so much, to, again, diversity and inclusion and engagement with the community. So we're going to be keeping those two concepts in mind as we think about celebrating the 20th anniversary. I love this photo too. It's such a gorgeous building. So we reopened August 11th. One of the last things that we were doing here right before we closed was finalizing our own table at your luncheon that you were going to have in March, and it was so sad that we didn't get to do it. But we spent this summer, and you'll see in a little bit, doing all kinds of things, including preparing to reopen. And we modeled our reopening on how the Smithsonian is operating. And I like to quote Secretary Bunch, Lonnie Bunch, which is that they were going to use a dimmer switch analogy, which is like they're going to turn it up slowly, see how it goes. They could turn it back down depending on visitation and all of those things. And that's what we did. And we've experimented and learned some things already since August 11th. But so far, it's been just really wonderful. I have to admit that I was anxious. I mean, right, we'd all been kind of home for so long, but the museum was, it's a purpose-built museum to engage people. And so it was a sad place to be here and not have people in and enjoying the art. So sneeze guards, masks, all those things that we're all used to seeing now. We also installed a marquee tent at the front of the museum to protect people from the elements if there was a line to get in, as people might have to wait 6 feet apart, and installed what has been, lovingly nicknamed our floating gallery, because the pieces look like they're just floating, and they kind of do blow in the wind a little bit. And these are reproductions from the collection that folks have just loved, and it's just one more way that we can engage the public outside as well. We're actually trying to figure out how to keep them there, even like post-COVID. We'll see what we can do. Some other things that we've done, we are completely, of course, aligned with the university, a Healthier You. So again, masks, lots of sanitation stations everywhere. We even had some little pumpkins in here with their little masks on. Constant cleaning of surfaces where folks might be touching surfaces, although we've installed touchless spigots in the bathrooms, as a lot of the university has. And also the staff, we all are required and do every day check in on our iPhones, on our phones with, you see that green screen there. For those of you that are faculty or staff, you're aware of this, but for the public, just for anyone that's not, we check in, and there are a series of questions that were asked, and about temperature and all those things that you know now. And if you get a green screen, you come on in, and if you don't, there's other steps to do. So we're all being really cautious about that. We've also limited the numbers in our galleries based on the Smithsonian square footage model, so that people can move through the spaces freely and feel safe, and not get too clumped together. We've also, when we think about stewarding the collection, we've added to our collection this spring. And these are just 3 pieces that we've added. The quilt is a Gee's Bend quilt, for those of you that are familiar with Gee's Bend. And this is entitled Railroad Crossing by Maddie Ross, who is a longtime member of the quilting bee there. And you can kind of see the railroad crossing pattern in there. And we had that piece and these 2 and several others installed in our Southern Artist Visionary Art Show. that opened in February, and hardly anybody got to see it because we had to close, but it was such a beautiful show. I was thrilled to add these two pieces as well by Mary T. Whitfield, who was born in Alabama. She lives actually in Ohio now with her son. She's older. And I had seen her work about this time last year at a show in Birmingham, and started researching her to understand more about her. The bottom piece is actually, it depicts some of her siblings when they were young, but she's widely collected, including by Oprah Winfrey. So we're happy to have her pieces in the collection. She's a wonderful African-American artist. And so those are just 3 pieces that we added this year that we, and I'll tell you a little bit more about focusing on women. Something else that we did while we've been closed is implement a brand new online collection management system whereby you, the public, can go in and research our collection. The main page there highlights the strengths of our collection, and you can then click on any piece and it will take you into deeper dives. This is our Advancing American Art group, which forms the original core of the university's collection. And then this is our Jacob Lawrence piece entitled Harlem, and there's even a magnifying glass so you can zoom in and see details. And I would encourage any of you to go to the website and go to Explore and then to the collection database, and you can type in subjects, titles, artists. So have fun with it. And we're constantly updating it and adding more photography and more details. So I hope you enjoy it. It was an important thing to do. We hadn't updated our database in more than a decade. So you can imagine how much, that has changed and improved over the last 10 years. So we're just thrilled about it and hope you all enjoy it. Related to the collection, one of the things that we've done, again, I mentioned, I think, that we have about 2,500 pieces in the collection, and that sounds like a lot, but believe it or not, it's kind of small. But we're a very young institution as well. But as we started looking at the collection and thinking again about our principles and our values, I asked the team, let's do a count. Let's see, how many pieces do we have in the collection by people of color? How many do we have by women? So here are the numbers. They're not great numbers, right? Even out of 2,500, those are very small percentages. I will say that it's not necessarily unusual. This is, again, one of the things that museums are thinking about. And the vast majority of collections in the vast majority of museums in this country hold mainly art by white men. So it's, of course, there are brilliant artists that are female and different races and ethnicities. And so it's important for us to think about our students, our faculty, our region, our population, and how are we reflecting that, and how do we learn and grow from the art that's in our collection. So we added 3 pieces by women of color, not by accident. We were focusing on women this year, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, why we were focusing on women. But we're going to continue that focus, and we're getting ready to launch a campaign to improve these numbers and add some incredible art by women of color. This is a piece that we have acquired by Faith Ringgold. We have one piece in the collection by Faith already. She was born in New Jersey, but her heritage is from the South, the lineage from the South, and the Underground Railroad, as a matter of fact. And this is a piece that depicts Mahalia Jackson, who was, one of the voices of the civil rights movement, and she was from New Orleans. So I love that we've connected to our southern, our southeastern roots, right? But we're also thinking about about the importance of the story that's behind this and this artist. So I look forward to sharing more with you about how we're going to acquire the art and how we're going to be able to share it with everyone. But it's our goal to improve these numbers, and it's actually very easy to do, and we're thrilled to be on this path. And I look forward to sharing with you improved numbers over the coming months. Related to this subject of access and reflecting our community, in early June, after the murder of George Floyd, and so many people are thinking about racial injustice in this country and social justice, museums in particular were thinking a lot about their ability to offer places and spaces of solace and dialogue. And this piece in our collection came to mind for me. Gordon Parks was a renowned photographer and film producer, amongst other things. And he was commissioned in 1956 by Life magazine to capture images of the Deep South, and he went to Mobile. And so this is in Mobile, Alabama, in 1956. And what I encourage the team here to do, and whenever I have conversations like this with you all in particular, is to think about art in ways where my mother has always said that my first word was why. I'm a curious person. And so I think I have questions when I look at this piece and when I look at any piece. And, some of my questions include this little girl, and, she's looking in the window, and she may be looking at like the ice cream, right? And I don't know if there's any relation between, the two people in this image. They're awfully dressed up. I don't know if it's a Sunday. I don't know if they're going to a wedding or some special event. And kind of the lively posters that are pasted, that are taped up in the glass windows. What kind of a jarring contrast almost to see a colored water fountain and a white water fountain. And of course we don't have that any longer, but there's still issues of equity and justice that this country is wrestling with. And so this is a way for us this image is a way for us to enter into a conversation about that. And so I shared this image with others at the university, and there's been some really interesting things that have come out of it. So it's part of the work that we do here. We are here to sometimes provoke, but to again offer art for your consideration and for you to think about what it means in your life, and how you might explore subjects that are of interest to you more. Outside and colorfully, we installed this summer an interactive outdoor sculpture piece that was funded in part by Tiger Giving Day in 2019. And this, of course, is patterned after the artist Mondrian. I'm sure many of you are familiar with his bold geometric primary colors and the black outline. And so it's been so great to see little ones out there and know that they're enjoying it. It took a little bit of time. When one installs a play structure, there's all kinds of rules and safety and all those things, right, that you have to think about. But it's there now. And even though fall is here, we're looking into some sort of sail shade or something because it got so hot this summer. So we may be looking at installing that later on this winter. But we're thrilled to be able to have it. We're thrilled we were able to follow through on all of the gifts for Tiger Giving Day, and yet again a way for people to engage with us and the grounds, especially during times of COVID. Something else that we've done, that we did while we were closed, was think about all the parents and children and caregivers that were home and trying to figure out very quickly how to get through their days and stay on track with school. And so the team here put together various kits based on grade level and art in our collection, and included all the supplies and the instructions, and all we ask in return. We gave them away. We gave 200 away. curbside at the museum. And then we also delivered, I think, more than 100 to the Boys and Girls Clubs in Opelika and Auburn, and we were thrilled to do it. This is a Bessie Harvey piece in our collection, and this young man found his own twig and made his own kind of piece. So we got all kinds of great, photographs from kids. This is, splatter art based on our Alice Baver, and, here's just more happy kids, and it makes me happy to see them. And, you just never know the impact that this kind of thing will have, have on children and parents. So we were thrilled to be able to do it, and looks like they all enjoyed themselves. Something else that we did, again, I mentioned stewarding earlier, something else that we did this summer before we reopened was we installed motion sensors in 2 of our galleries that are dedicated to our Audubon collection, which is fragile. It works on paper, and you have to always think about light mitigation. So it wasn't hard to do, and it was great to do, so that those galleries remain dark until someone walks in, which is going to extend their life. And that's because nothing lasts forever, and certainly not paper art on paper. So it was our obligation to think that through. We also installed some kind of translucent film on the doors to cut through, to cut out so much of the light that would be pouring into those galleries. So good stewardship on our part, I think, and we look forward to sharing more of the Audubons with everyone now that we've got some of those solutions in place. Let me just say a little bit about our outdoor sculpture show, and then I'm excited to take you in for a little virtual tour into the galleries. Our outdoor sculpture show is an every other year juried exhibition, and it was supposed to have closed on October 1st, but we extended it again because of the virus and how important it is for people to be outside. And we really did just see, a marked increase in people visiting the grounds this spring and summer. So we were thrilled to extend it. This is called the Board Caterpillar. It's near the front of the museum, and it's made from boards, and it's a caterpillar kind of crawling up the wall. So if you all haven't been here to explore the grounds, please do come. And there are QR codes, so you can hear artists narrating their works, and just delighted to have it. I mentioned women earlier. We focused this year on women in our exhibitions inside. And why did we do this? Because, as you all likely know, 2020 was the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. And so we joined museums and other cultural institutions across the nation in thinking about women, in our instance, women in the visual arts. So the bottom right picture is an illustration of the Grand Gallery, and we've got posters from the School of Visual Arts in New York, and all of the pieces that we selected were designed and illustrated by women. I'll tell you a little bit about the challenge around how did we think about females and Audubon. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's go inside now. I'm so excited and proud of my team that they've done this. But for those of you that haven't been, we've got a little bit of, COVID assistance here, so you can see, so that you don't have to touch the door handles. But this is our French poster exhibition that's on tour and on loan to us through the new year. So we hope you'll come. We're open every day except Mondays, and open late on Thursday nights. To be delighted to have you. And the pieces featured are by 5 of the most famous French artists in this genre, including, of course, Toulouse-Lautrec, Chauvet, Steinlen, Grasset. So it's just our honor to have these. They came in massive crates. It was really quite something to see these pieces. And I was saying to Mary Elizabeth before we got on today that it's remarkable that they exist, because these were posters, just like you see a poster today and then it gets thrown away. That's all these were intended, was to advertise essentially and highlight. And because of technology at the time, all of a sudden they were bursts of color as opposed to just black and white broadsides before. So it's a miracle that they still exist, much less that they're in this great a condition, and we're honored to have the show. One of the things, though, that we did, because all of the artists were men, and so this was planned before we got our 2020 framework in place, was how do we think about women in this show? And as you look at the art, virtually every piece features a woman. The woman is the thing that is depicting or advertising what's going on. So I dug in and wanted to find out who these women were, and just was thrilled to learn about them. Some of them rose up from destitution and died in destitution, poverty, unknown. Others, two hold the French Legion of Honor Award medal. One is an American who still holds patents. Louis Fuller holds patents to this day for some stage lighting and her diaphanous, costume. So that's what's so wonderful about exhibitions, is you're telling stories, right? We think about that a lot. We don't just hang the art on the wall. We're trying to share a story. And again, what does it mean to you? What does it bring up for you? This is, I referenced earlier, when all the art was on the wall and the students were studying it. This is the result of their work. This is an Impressionism show. This was Dr. Burns' art history class. And we gave the gallery over to them for the entire semester. It was a lab, and we loved doing it. And they were just immersed in the space, and we were immersed with them when they were here. And then this is our Audubon show. And I mentioned, how are we going to think about women? And you think about females, and it's a gendered notion, and at the same time, we all are home, and what's a bird's home? Well, it's nests, and how do we nurture ourselves during this time? So we decided to pull some of the most beautiful images from the Audubon collection that feature nests, and mamas feeding their babies, and dads going and bringing, nesting materials and things. So it was a really interesting way to look at Audubon's work kind of through that lens of, kind of the femaleness of being home. So anyway, I hope you'll come and see us, but I thought this would be a fun way for you to kind of virtually see the show, for those of you that cannot visit us between now and when these shows close. Again, they're open through the new year. Just a little bit of visitor feedback. We love to toot our horn a little bit, right? I mean, we're always eager for feedback, but people have just said how beautiful the French poster show is. And some of these quotes, hardship gives birth to innovation, right? That's so true. And this one about the floating gallery, we don't know who it is, but someone wrote us and said it might be what saves their life in 2020, and they're not even kidding. So we do see people all the time just enjoying the grounds, coming in, and again, it's a safe place. It's a beautiful place. It's a place to come and think and be with others. That's what museums are for, 6 feet apart. But we're just so thrilled to be open and share it with everyone. And 2021 is right around the corner. And so as we think about, again, a framework, I like for us as a team to think about a word or a phrase or a concept around which we can build our exhibition schedule and think about our engagement opportunities. And as I started looking at a couple of the shows that were on tap for 2021, the first thing that struck me, for example, Bernini and Weight of Black, is they couldn't be more opposite. They're centuries apart, they're materials apart, they're artists, they couldn't be more opposite. And what an interesting thing, though, to think about, compare and contrast. And even when you look at the light in Weight of Black and the light that you see on these two people depicted in Bernini's piece. So juxtaposition is what came to mind for me. 2020 versus what is 2021 going to look like? So we've got 4 shows. Crafting America will be here next summer, and it's going to be a gorgeous show that will have just come from Crystal Bridges, and it's going to be remarkable with modern craft based around the theme of liberty, essentially. So kind of 3 concepts from the Declaration of Independence, but Sheila Hicks and George Nakashima and just Maria Martinez. There's just going to be beautiful pieces here that I can't wait to share with you all. And Whitney Wood Bailey will be here next fall. She's an Auburn alum that has a remarkable studio in Brooklyn and does kind of large-scale abstract oils. So it's going to be a colorful, beautiful, thought-provoking year next year, and we look forward to seeing you all for these shows and then the accompanying engagement. So that's the really kind of, I don't even know where we are for time, but I hope I didn't go too fast, but that's kind of the quick overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and want to thank you again for having us today.
Thank you so much, Cindi. This is fantastic. As I've told you before, I'm a huge fan of the museum, and y'all have brought me joy this year, and my daughter, who loved to. But we would love for your questions. So you can either just yell them out, unmute yourself, and ask them out loud, or if you want to type them in the chat, I'll be happy to read them out loud for you.
Good. We hope everyone follows us on social media. We've got a robust social media where we're posting on Instagram in particular beautiful images of the collection and share about what we're doing. So you can find all that information on the website.
Well, I have a question. I'll be the first. I know that you've suspended like your children's programs for this year, but can you tell us when those might be back, and then also like some of the programs that you offer in-house?
Right. Yeah, right. We had just started a darling program, Creative Cubs, and it was for 3 and 4-year-olds, I think. Our son will be 30 next year. He's an Auburn alum, as is his wife, and our daughter is older, so sometimes those ages, it's hard to remember them. But I don't know when we'll be able to because of the physical distancing. So even though the museum is a big space, to gather people indoors. So college students are one thing, and you can easily say, 6 feet apart, and we place the art apart. It's a little more difficult for little guys. So, but we are doing some things on the ground. So be sure to check some gatherings, quote unquote, again, staying far enough apart unless you're in your own little, family unit. So check on the website for those. The most that we know we can have, for example, I'm in the auditorium right now, is 26 people. When you think about allowing, again, 6 feet on either side and behind you. We just haven't ventured that far yet. I was on a phone call this morning, a Zoom call with the Southeastern Association of Museum Directors, and I think I was mentioning this earlier. Everyone's kind of all over the map. There's some institutions that haven't even opened. And they're not going to reopen until maybe next spring. Others are open and have 300 people weddings. And we're not doing that. I mean, first of all, we are aligned with the university. So there are no gatherings on the university campus over 100, I think. But we don't have the space to hold 100 people inside 6 feet apart. But we're working hard to try to figure out how to engage, especially little ones. We do have a pickup program, and I think this will be on the website soon, for Halloween, similar to the art kits that we did this summer, that are being developed again for young people. And it's, again, going to be art projects based on the outdoor sculptures. So you can sign up for a kit and come by and pick that up. So we're also, the city schools, it's, there are no field trips, that kind of thing right now. So we're taking our cues from a lot of different folks. But as soon as we can, we will have people back. It's why we're here, but I don't know when that will really be.
Sure. We have a lot of great compliments in the chat, but one question, whether there is a particular piece in the collection that is a favorite. I'm not sure of yours or of the public.
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, one of my favorite genres is the visionary art, which is sometimes can be called folk art. And so, some of the pieces that were on exhibit this February, you saw that two of the, the quilt and then the two oil paintings. But we have some beautiful Bernice Sims that are just remarkable. She also kind of captured life in Alabama during the civil rights movement, and then up and beyond and to current day. We have a piece that was on exhibit that depicted, she painted the firefighters in 9/11 and the flag that was raised, and it was so beautiful and so moving. So I love many of our visionary art pieces. And it's an interesting thing for me I should ask what the staff's favorites are. Our Advancing American Art collection is so beloved, and those have been on loan, and the staff here loves them, and so does the world. So you saw the Jacob Lawrence, we focused in on that. He was a remarkable artist. We have a Georgia O'Keeffe, which is so beautiful. So I love most art, actually, but I do in particular love our visionary art pieces, and was thrilled to be able to add that quilt as well, the G-Spin quilt. And many of you may remember the exhibition that was here. I think it was 2005 when we actually had, when that quilt exhibition was traveling the country, and it came here. It would be wonderful to try to get that back at some point.
I do remember that, by the way. One more question in the chat. Did the pieces ever travel to other museums? I'm assuming this is pieces from your permanent collection.
They sure do, and we love it when it happens. So we're just like other museums, that what is on exhibit is a small percentage of what's in our collection, and we could never have enough space to exhibit everything all at once. The capacity to tell the story, all of those things. The art needs rest, all of those things. So one way that we can further engage, the public, is to share and loan the collection. So, for example, we had 3 pieces from Advancing American Art that were in Manhattan this time last year at the Jewish Museum, when they installed an exhibit about Edith Halpert, who was the woman that, kind of launched the career. She was a gallerist that launched the career of so many what were considered then kind of cutting edge artists. So we lent 3 of those pieces, and it was such a thrill. I was there, this time last year, and then when IQLA was there, we took some folks over to see. We get credit, right? It says on loan from Auburn University, so it's a wonderful way to share, to reflect the university, outside of Auburn. And it's, again, a way to connect with and collaborate with our peers, and to help tell stories that these other museums are trying to tell. We've got a piece, another Advancing American Art piece, that's getting ready to leave in the new year, and it's going to be in Dayton, Ohio, and I can't remember, it's going to be around, but all of these pieces are, it's part of our work to carefully track with loan documents and ensure everybody's got insurance and shipping and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, we do. We love to lend our pieces, as long as it's all, and we wouldn't otherwise, as long as it's all safe, and we feel good about that. It's great to be able to do that.
It's really interesting. Any other questions?
I'm happy to see some people. I don't know how many people are there, but I can see a few people in the boxes.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to turn it over to Kim Walker, who's our director, to close us out. But thank you again so much, Cindi. I've learned so much. I thought I knew, almost everything, but I've learned a lot more, and I really appreciate it.
You're so very welcome. It's been my pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Cindi, very much. And thank you, Charlotte, also for helping put this together. We really appreciate it. I want to make sure that you know about some of our upcoming events that we have coming up in the next month, especially our big fall event this year, which is going virtual. And I'm going to share this right quick. So you can see that we are planning the world's largest virtual tailgate on Monday, October 26th, and we are featuring the voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham, and his lovely wife, Dr. Jan Burcham, as our keynote speakers. And if you know anything about Andy and Jan, you know that they have a very inspirational story to share with us. So I hope that you will plan on joining us for that. And then in November, we have 2 sessions planned. Thursday, November 5th, we have a session at noon that's called Own Your Influence. And in that, we'll be talking about your personal capital, which is essentially your reputation, your credibility, your influence, and how you can use your personal capital to build your financial capital. And then on Tuesday, November 10th, we have an estate planning basics course with our friends from Warren Averett CPAs and Advisors. So I hope that you will plan for those. Please be on the lookout on our Facebook page for more information and in your email. And we just appreciate all of y'all being with us again today and hope to see you again soon.